Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire. Jeff, could you maybe laugh just a little bit less? Come on, man.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Carrie Hartunian Smith, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going there in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona?
It's sunny. Thanks for having me. It's one of the warmer days than we usually have, but it's going good. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome, and again, thanks for being here. I was just out in Phoenix in June on probably one of the hotter days of the year. And that heat wave they had in June, I think it was, I don't know, like in the middle-ish.
Yeah, we were cooking eggs and steaks on the sidewalk.
Yeah. It was crazy hot. But it was a pool party, so that made it all good.
Well, there's something about the summers out here in the pool that when you go to jump in the water, you want it like crisp and refreshing. And sometimes the pools are warm. It's like bath water.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
If you were able to jump in a pool that was crisp and refreshing, then you found a good pool.
Well, I can tell a story that'll make you feel a little bit better.
Okay.
When I was in the Air Force, I went to Saudi Arabia, all the wonderful places to go in the world. Not because I wanted to, though.
Not as a tourist. Right?
Not as a tourist. No. And there, it was like, I think it got up over 140 degrees at some points. This is where it's super dangerous to go anywhere without a bottle of water, right? Yeah. And the pools there, they had to cool them. Literally cool the pools, like through refrigeration.
I was going to say they're shoveling 20 bags.
I don't know how they did it. I have no idea how they did it, but they were really nice. It was the problem with me in the pool there was it was just really hard to be out in the sun. Around the pool. As long as you were in the pool with a hat on, you were all right. But everything else, I wanted to immediately be gone. So I would just go hang out at the fake bar with no booze. Just for shade,
Well, I guess I shouldn't complain then that people have it worse than me in Arizona.
There's always something worse. Whatever you're going through, there's always something worse. I don't know if that makes
true.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's so true.
Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what you got going on right now. You are working at Smart Marketing Consulting. Sorry.
Consulting. But I do counsel. I feel like I counsel sometimes.
Yeah.
Slip there.
Yeah. Right. Consultants become counselors, become coaches, become, counselors. Bartenders. No. Yeah. You're whispering in the ear of business owners and helping them with all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, You're helping them with branding and marketing and strategy. So it sounds like a blast.
It is. You know what? I was in, I'm going to say corporate America for many, 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 many years.
Right.
And I took that leap about 4 years ago. And it was definitely one of those family members looking at me saying, "Are you crazy? What are you doing?"
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you.
That's a Veer for sure.
It is a Veer. Oh, yeah. And I know we'll talk about that one in a little bit.
Right.
I'll tell you, if I had known what I was going to go through, I probably would not have done it. But now that I'm through it and I'm on the other side, there's nothing better than waking up and me being back to having purpose, with my life as far as, with what I'm doing for an occupation. And I love it. I love working with my clients. I love the schedule that I'm able to keep. I love being able to be at home. I'm a single mom. So, it's been really important those middle school, high school years, I'm able to wake up and, make his breakfast without, screaming, "Hurry up, we're both going to be late. Get out the door." So it was definitely, it's been a great ride the last several years.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times when people talk about, if I would have known what it was really like, I would have never done it. Sometimes it's good to not know what you don't know.
Yeah, there is something healthy about denial as long as you can push through it eventually.
Yeah, well, you're either going to make it or you're going to go back to work, really.
Yeah.
In the end, that's how it goes, So,
Yeah.
If you step back when you're in the middle of that, just feeling like, everybody hates you and yeah, then you can get a little perspective. But anyway, let's go back in time and talk about your superhero origin story, like I've been saying for the last couple of shows, and talk about little Carrie in high school. So what were you like?
We're going to go all the way back to high school.
We're going to go all the way back to high school. What were you like? Were you a nerd or an athlete or a princess? Who did you hang out with?
I have to say that was just a couple years ago. So no, I'm kidding. Wish. No. I was one of those kids in high school that, gosh, I don't know that there was a word for me, or maybe I'll explain it and you'll tell me what I was. I don't know.
Okay.
But I wasn't with the popular crowd, but I wasn't with the nerd crowd. I had a few friends in different groupings, if you will.
Right.
But I was kind of, I was always somebody's friend. People didn't know me. They knew me either as somebody's friend or they knew me as, I have two older brothers that paved the way for me. And
nice.
Not in a good way.
Okay.
And so, I just I was one of those kids that I did not do well in school. School was not my thriving environment. I could not wait to be out of school. I didn't have one of those great high school experiences. I wasn't on the cheerleading team. I wasn't a Pommy, although I tried out for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was kind of where I found my thriving environment, if you will, was working. You hear a lot of people say, I've been working since I was 8 years old. And yes, I had the babysitting jobs and I did have jobs when I was 10 or 11.
Right.
But I truly, truly started working when I was 14 as a hostess in a little breakfast shop. My parents didn't, I had to get approval from them because I was too young. They wouldn't hire, you had to be 15.
Wow.
And,
okay.
I had to fight my parents to let me work. They're like, no, we don't want you to. And I'm like, oh, but I want
need
to.
money.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because we grew up very, my family went through some very hard financial times. We had one car for 5 drivers and it was are you ready for what the car was?
I'm ready. Hit me. Where is this again? Is this in Scottsdale still?
In Scottsdale, Arizona. We live in a very, wealthy area, but we were not.
Right.
And our car was I think it was a 1969. I could be wrong with the year, but a Ford Pinto.
Wow. I remember the Pinto.
Yeah. You wanted to be careful not to get rear-ended because the car might blow up.
It would explode. That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
So a lot of, embarrassment of, didn't have nice clothes. All my friends had nice clothes. The car that we had, especially those were starting to be the dating years,
right,
14, 15, 16. So anyway, my parents signed for it and they let me go to work and I was hostessing and it was perfect because it was a little breakfast joint. So it was only open from 6 a.m. to 2. So I could only work on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. And I'd go in at 6 in the morning. I'd come home at 3. And so I still had my weekends to do stuff. And quickly, after they hired me, they moved me up to a waitress. So I was waiting and I could because there was no alcohol in the restaurant.
Okay, right.
So I was quickly at the age of 15, like literally 15 in one day, because I was a late bloomer. My birthday's at the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting tables and, making $300 a weekend for a 15-year-old. So
wow,
I got
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean,
wow. I don't think I got anywhere close to that. Wow, good for you. Those tips really help.
Well, I'll tell you, it was, back in the day, those breakfast joints were not common. So, now they're like a Starbucks. They're almost on every street corner.
Right.
But, we always had an hour and a half wait. And, you turn your tables quick, you smile and you serve food, quickly and effectively and efficiently, and you get good tips. So
right.
I got the taste of, my point behind the story is I got the taste of instant gratification, doing a good job and getting rewarded for it. Right. Whereas in school, it was such a struggle for me. My reading comprehension was terrible. I don't enjoy test taking. I don't enjoy studying. I'm one of those people that show me, teach me, show me, teach me, and I'll go and do it. And I'll probably, hopefully exceed what you were thinking and make it bigger and better. So I'm wired.
It's good that you learned that about you, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You didn't buy the hype about what they were telling you about in school.
No, and I'll tell you, that the hype scared me, because I thought if that was true, I had to go to college and I had to get a degree to be somebody or to be something. I was screwed.
Right.
And I always had that feeling that there was something bigger and better. And I didn't know what that meant. And I don't know if I still know exactly today what that means for my future. But every year I do see something bigger and better than what it was. And so that's what keeps driving me.
Wow. That's a good story. I like that.
Well, and then of course it doesn't stop there. My senior year, so we'll clean up high school here. We'll get past high school. My senior year, it was we had half days. So you'd go in at 7 a.m. And if you were in home ec, it was one of those work, school work programs.
I had that deal. I can't remember why or when, but 1 year of school, I had a job. I think it was my junior year.
Oh,
and then they gave us school credit for one class and they called it work experience.
Yep.
And you got to just basically leave.
Yes.
You didn't have, it was only on days that I was working. Mm-hmm. So, I think I was working I know I was working at a grocery store. I'm struggling with the hours at the moment. I think it was something like 4 to 10 or 5 to 10, a couple of days a week. Mm-hmm. So then they let me not be in school, kind of like for a couple of days a week for 1 hour, one period.
Oh. Well, ours worked a little different.
Okay.
If you were in home ec, you got out at let's say 11 o'clock or no, 10, it was like 10:20. It was 10:20 every day. So I went to school from 7:30 to 10:20 every day, whether I worked or not, but I had to have a job.
Okay.
And I thought my path was going to be retail. So I got a job at the time, it was a retail store called Stages. They're not around anymore, and the deal was that you had to stay the whole year and you got credit and you got paid and you got credit.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, so I got this job and loved my managers and was doing really well. I don't think of myself as a salesperson, but when I like the product, I guess I just sell it naturally. So my numbers were great. I was hitting great numbers, and all of a sudden I went into work one day and all of the managers that I loved all left. And one of them grabbed me, and said, hey, here's where we're going. You should come. We want to hire you. We want you to come over with us. Well, the deal is in high school is you couldn't quit your job. Part of the
you had to keep
deal,
it or you'd lose your credit. Right.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, this is my career. And, no, high school's not going to tell me what I can do and what I can't.
I bet you could have negotiated that. If you would have went in and talked to a teacher and said, hey, I'm going to keep working. It's just la, la, la. Anyway, you don't know that now, right? Or you didn't know that then. You didn't know that then. Yeah.
Well, that's what I did. I went into the home ec teacher. My family said, go talk to the teacher. So that in and of itself, that was scary, but I knew what I wanted. So I went in and talked to the teacher and said, hey, look, here's the deal. I love my managers. They want me to come over. I have room for advancement. So I think this is a good decision. I want to go, don't penalize me for it. Mm-hmm. So my teacher said, okay, but you can't switch your job again. I said, okay, yep, I'm fine. I'm good. Okay. So I go to the new store, and it was an opening store, and that store is still around. It's called Wet Seal. It was the first Wet Seal in Arizona. Okay. And it's like a teeny bopper clothing store.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So any moms with kids listening will know what Wet Seal is.
Gotcha.
And maybe some dads too. But so I went there and I was working a couple months, and there was opportunity for me to start to be like a lead supervisor type role. And, so this is my senior year.
And you're like 17 years old.
Barely 17. Yeah. It was like December, so not even 17 and a half. And things were going good. Well, that whole manager staff decides to leave.
Oh, no.
And the person who was going to promote me left, and the new people coming in weren't great people as far as I could tell. And so my other manager comes up to me and says, "Hey, we have this great opportunity. We want you to come with us." And I said,
I can't.
I did it once. I don't know if I can do it again.
Right.
So I went to my home ec teacher again, and I'll never forget the look on her face. She just kind of looked at me and was like, I can't, but okay, I'll do it. So they made another exception.
Wow.
And I moved. And this was a great opportunity.
And they were like really like looking at you with their hands on their hips at that point.
Yeah. And so I really had a great life. I was going to school from 7 to 10:30, and then I worked the rest of the day. And I loved it. It was awesome. So the opportunity was to go open a new resort here in Scottsdale. Now, anyone who knows anything about Scottsdale or has been here, this would have been in the late 80s. So 88-ish. The Phoenician Resort opened.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah, it's very fancy. It was a Charlie Keating resort, and it was like the biggest and the best resort around. I mean, it was for miles. People came here for that from out of state. And they hired me to work in the boutique shop. So the sundry shop, the t-shirt shop, and then the gift shop. And so I loved it, and I rooted down. I ended up, dating somebody there, and that was my life. And now, I bet you can guess what happened. I graduated high school. So
Okay. I kind of started guessing, but I'll let you go ahead and tell the story.
I graduated high school and didn't have to change jobs again, but the whole management team left again. And this time I had, because this was a bigger company, a bigger organization than some of the other ones that, I shouldn't say bigger. It was just different. It was more intimate. Like I knew the higher ups and they knew me.
Okay.
That when all of those managers left, I think it was like right around my graduation. I know it was either right before I graduated or right after. The owner of the resort came to me and said, "Hey, everyone's leaving. We think you have promise. We want you to be the manager of 2 of the gift shops." And actually there was 3 at the time.
Wow.
Like we consulted.
And you're like 18 years old.
No, I'm 17.
17.
I just barely graduated high school, and I had a staff of probably 7 or 8. Half of them were my age, 17, 18, 19, and the other half were 65 to 75 years old.
That's a little scary.
Yeah. I mean,
that's more than a little scary for a 17-year-old girl. Yeah. Or even a guy. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So I took it, and that next year I learned so much, and it was a great experience. So at 17 years old, I had management experience, and this is kind of like the vroom vroom going down the highway.
Right.
I am on cloud 9. At that time, I think I was making like close to $19,000 a year, which was in the late 80s. For a 17-year-old, unheard of. I started getting credit cards.
Right.
I was it. Like I was cool.
Instead of everybody else your age who's now spending, probably $20,000 or $25,000 plus on college and expenses, you're making money now.
Right. And
good for you.
And for waiting tables, that burned out, job after they just waited tables all of their high school career. Now they're, still doing it outside of high school. So I'm going to say it launched my career. Like I said, I was dating somebody there, and my life became the resort. And I was still living at home, of course. I had money in my checkbook, and I was out and a lot of high schoolers, at least high schoolers out early outside of high school, were partying and living the life. I was vacationing. I was doing everything. And then about a year later, some things happened in life, at the ripe age of 18. And I felt like I was missing out. Now all of a sudden I see all my friends like having fun. And my life, although I was having fun, it was like this mature fun. It was not silly, stupid stuff that 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds do. It was more mature. And the guy I was dating was 10 years older than me. So
wow.
Yeah, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a bit of a thing.
Yeah. And so I used to go back to Connecticut every summer because that's where I'm from originally. And so I hadn't had a chance to go back to Connecticut for about a summer and a half. And a friend of mine who I knew since I was born called me and she's like, I miss you. You need to come out. You haven't been out here in a while. And life just got heavy and overwhelming and just too much. It was way too much. And so I walked in, I quit my job.
Wow. Whoa.
And it was just one of those things where I quit my job and I packed my bag and I hopped on an airplane and I flew back to Connecticut and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just said, well, I'm just going to be here for the summer. I don't have anything to go. I broke up with my boyfriend. I should say that I broke up with my boyfriend, quit my job, moved back or went back to Connecticut and enjoyed the college life, over the summer. And so I was there and I had nothing to come home to. So it was kind of like, well, I guess I'll stay and go to college. So
well, you sound
there.
a lot like my choices. It was like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah. Everyone else is doing it. I might as well,
Yeah. And you kind of get that feeling like you're missing out on something that you don't want to miss out on. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because people kind of expect people at 18, 19, 20 to be, like partying and doing stupid stuff anyway.
Yeah.
And it's not going to last.
No. And that's just it. That's why my parents did not want me working so young because they didn't want my childhood to be robbed from me, quite honestly.
Right. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, now with the age I'm at and when I've been worn out, after all these years of working and everything. And I think back and I'm like, I don't like to think back and say, what would I change? But I understand that concept. I understand that concept of being a kid, being a 14, 15, 16-year-old and not being, 23 when you're only 15 or 16.
Right.
But you couldn't tell me that back then. And, it's what made me. So that's okay. But so I decided to, so I flew home, packed my bag, flew back and went to college out there for a year. Failed miserably. Failed miserably.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
well, you didn't like school to begin with.
Hated school. Right. Stupidest thing I've ever done. No, that's not true. But I shouldn't say it's stupid. But
a lot of people are saying it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. How's that
it's
sound?
Not. It's
really not. And when I went to school, there used to be this sort of like, it was a real clear distinction about you're either going to be in the I'm going to go to college prep track. Mm-hmm. Or you're not, and we're going to just focus on, the other vocational options other than going to college. That's kind of gone away now in a lot of places, right? In public education anyway. Well,
and the vocational, it's just not there anymore.
Right. In public
there is
education,
no shop. There is no,
it's pretty much gone. Wood shop and metal shop and auto hobby and all that. That's all gone. Yeah. It was amazing. That was,
it was amazing the things we'd bring home, the things that we could make.
Yeah. I made a sheet metal box for crying out loud.
And I'm sure your mom loves it. You got her for
it's
Mother's
still there.
Day.
You should see all the crap in the basement that I made when I was in high school. Oh my goodness. Like woodworking, and these are just little things that you kind of like, it comes and goes, it's like, I love this. This is great. I'm going to be a carpenter. And then, a month later it's meh, and it's over.
This month I'm going to be a plumber. Or
right. I wish I would have done that. That would have been cool because I pay plumbers way too much money now.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Okay. So you kind of like go and you do a year's worth of college and that doesn't work out so good.
Fail miserably, come home, and I started floundering. I spent a couple years just kind of floundering. I thought, well, I failed going there, so let me just do community college. And all along, I was taking classes and trying to get an associate's degree, I guess. Well, I don't even know what I was trying to do, but I was in and out of college. I tell people I've been in every college in the Maricopa County area, community and university, and Connecticut. I've made it to Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so I was working, I was going between restaurants and I was going between working at restaurants and retail. And then one day my dad came home. I was early 20s. I was probably like 21 by now. And he's like, hey, and I was managing a retail store. And he said, hey, I'm going to open up a business. Do you want to come work for me? I was like, all right. Had no idea what he did. All I knew is that whatever he did for a living, it allowed us to get cable. That's all I knew, because we didn't have cable before. And when he got this job, we had to get cable, and it was like, score, keep that job, Dad.
That's great to talk to somebody else that remembers, 2, 5, and 11. That was only like 3 channels,
Yeah, and there was no remote control. You had the TV went. Clunk,
I was the remote control because my brother was way bigger than me. That's yeah.
He opened up a media company. The two of us had one other gentleman, and I started building and growing that business with my dad. He had no idea that I had management skills. He tells people to this day, he's like, I had no idea. I just needed someone to answer the phones. But he didn't realize what my path was and my management skills so early on. And so between the two of us, I was the entrepreneur's right-hand gal, if you will. And we built a company starting in 1993 from just the few of us. There was one other gentleman who joined us. We were doing $60,000 in revenue a month. And in that first year, we finished at $7 million in revenue. And from 1993 to 2007, our employee count climbed and our revenue climbed upwards of, we had anywhere from 50 to 60 employees. And our revenue was anywhere between 80 and 90 million in that time. Yeah. And so he decided to sell in 2007. And I stayed on with the
new owner, right?
Yep. They asked me to stay on. And that was definitely an impasse. I had spent 14 years. Let me back up a second. In that time, of course, I met the man of my dreams, and was going to live this fairy tale life of being married and having 5 to 7 kids. And my life was like I was good. I was in a good job.
Right. You were vrooming for sure.
I was vrooming for sure.
Everything's perfect, and this is the way it's going to be for the rest of my life.
Yep. And it's only going to get better because
it's only going to get better, right?
You don't step back in life, or at least I don't, right? I don't step back in life. I only step forward. Well, that's not true. So, I was in my room heading down the highway and in love and married and I always tell people I had a wedding that I would have loved to attended because it was an awesome wedding. But when it's your wedding, you don't get to. You don't
actually enjoy it. No.
Enjoy it. Yeah. So
I could tell stories.
Yes. So, unfortunately, my former spouse had some issues that I'll just say it. He partook in illegal substances.
Okay.
So he had a drug addiction.
Okay.
And everyone always asks me, "Did you know when you married him?" And I say, well, I kind of knew, but I didn't. And so then they say, so you thought you could change him? And I said, no, I didn't think I could change him. I just thought his want for not wanting to partake in that was bigger than the addiction. And it wasn't. He told me all the time he wanted to stop. He didn't want to be doing it. But the addiction was just bigger than that. And he, unfortunately, I think still to this day is in that boat. My son and I haven't seen or talked to him since 2009. So we got a divorce. My attorney said that our marriage was an insignificant amount of time.
Really?
Yeah, so we were married for a couple years. The divorce took the divorce took longer than the marriage.
Lasted.
I'll say that.
Right. But you were past the annulment point, or did they let you annul?
No, we were married, I guess, long enough.
Right.
I was married. We were married for 2 years.
Right.
Before I left him. Actually I left him because I had my son, and my son was 10 weeks old. And I looked at my son and I said, I didn't grow up with this kind of behavior, and I'm not going to allow you to grow up in and around it. And even though he was only 10 weeks old, people say, he doesn't know. And I don't subscribe to that thought process. I think, not at all. At 10 weeks old, he doesn't know that his dad is using drugs, but he certainly knows there's something funky going on.
Yeah.
So
it's not the right environment for a kid.
Yes. Yeah.
No. So you did the right thing. Thank goodness. Good for you. You got out.
Yeah. So I got out, and
hopefully he gets the help he needs eventually. Not everybody does.
Well, they don't. And that's in our prayers. All we can do is pray for the people who need the intercession of help. So, anyway, so that's that story. And so my point behind that is, here I am making really good money. having, going on trips, going on vacation, not just business trips, but going on family vacations and taking my son places that I certainly was not ever, I only dreamed of when I was, a kid, because we didn't have any money growing up.
Right.
And, it was like, okay, well, we're just going to carry on. We're not going to let this divorce stop me from what I said earlier. I knew God had something bigger for me, and I didn't know what that was. So,
and money wasn't a problem because you had a really good job.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that's interesting that you bring that up. Money for me, from the time that I got that job and was making $300 a weekend, was never an issue for me. I was always making more than the people around me. Now I was making $18,000 as a manager back then. That was a lot of money. So I don't want to overstate it. It's not like I was,
you're not like swimming in gold.
Yeah, like it's not like
Scrooge McDuck, but you were good.
Part of the elite. It was enough for me. To do what I needed to do, and so now fast forward the clock, life is going grand, and now I'm in this job. My company sold, and I stayed on with the acquiring company, and there was a target on my back. I was the former owner's daughter, and they asked me to stay on because they needed me to stay on. But the COO gave me a new job title, and with that job title, he said, "You realize this job title expires in 6 months." So that was his way of saying, "Start looking, honey. You're not going to be here very long."
Whoa! Wow.
Yeah, and so
it's like a regime change kind of mentality.
Yeah. And our family attorney that walked us through the whole acquisition was like, don't you start looking? You better figure it out.
Don't be surprised. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, of course, I didn't listen to them because I'm like, they're not going to let me go. Why would they let me go?
They want me.
I'm awesome.
Right.
And I'll tell you this. Fortunately, my COO at the time was a very, junkyard, in your face New York attorney. He was just like all up in your face. And I'll tell you what, that was the toughest 5 years working for him ever. But I learned so much, and they didn't fire me. I ended up leaving them because I got in there and I did what I do. I look to see where the needs are and then implement and execute and bridge the gap. Where with each company we acquired 5 companies in 18 months. My role was to integrate those companies into the corporate fold, and they were all mom and pop type companies. So I knew and understood that mentality because that's where we came from. That's where I came from.
Yeah.
And I knew how to, pull them into the fold. And so although it was hell, I'm not going to lie.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, because of the culture. It was hell because of the culture change. We went from this mom and pop family organization where I called the shots essentially. And, we had birthday parties and we did Christmas parties and we did all this fun stuff.
It feels like a family.
Yeah.
We
had this mission and this vision to corporate, you're a number, and it's all about EBITDA. And no, we're not donating money to this charity this month. And no, we're not having a Christmas party like you want. And so it was a huge culture shock. But nevertheless, I still was thriving. It was a great counterbalance for me to get a taste of, I'm going to say, the real world, to be honest with you.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Because when you organize a company, when you add in that many new people, then the organization just has to change. It can't be the same anymore. You need layers at that point.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
And that's always difficult, making that transition. Yeah, I've heard that story many times too. Yeah. Going from the baby little startup where everybody is just high-fiving and sweating, and then to, oh my God, I don't even know these people,
Well, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And, and our culture was very, we wore shorts and there was no dress code. And I mean, there was a little dress code, but to this corporate environment where, it was.
And ties and.
Yeah. It was when they told us we couldn't wear jeans anymore. I was like,
man,
that's not going to work.
Go.
So
you're harshing my vibe, dude.
Yeah, exactly. What? I can't work in jeans?
Oh no.
So, I'm sorry if you just heard that crash.
It's okay. What was it? It wasn't paper shuffling.
No, it wasn't paper shuffling. You know, they say before you do get on the call and you interview, you got to make sure all your animals are put away.
Oh,
solid.
That's a dog. He escaped.
Well, not a dog. We have 3, and they just busted down the door. 3 labs.
Wow.
So they're indestructible. But anyway, we'll keep going here. Sorry about that.
Okay. Do you need to take care of that? We can pause. No,
we're good.
You're cool.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
I like having the dog on the call too. I can hear. Awesome.
Yeah, can you hear them? There's 3 of them.
It's great.
So if it's too much, I'll
No. It's cool.
I'll kick them out.
That's all good.
So
where were we? Let's see.
I leaped.
Right. So after 5 years, then you decide to leap.
Yeah, it was about a 6-month long process of waking up miserable, waking up like truly, I can't get out of bed. Like if I have to get up and shower and go in, and the biggest reason why is their vision and their goals were changing, and they were changing way too fast. And in my opinion, the company was no longer headed down the path of success, rather destruction. And fast forward the clock after I left. So I left 4.5 years ago. Just 9 months ago, they ended up closing down 2 of the divisions. So, crystal ball, I was right. It took 4 years for it to come to an end.
Right. But you saw it.
Yeah. So, anyway, my family, and this is what I opened with, my family was like, you're a single mom. What are you doing? You make a really good paycheck. You have benefits.
Right.
Everything that's happening with insurance, for that alone, stay at your job, and
Don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that's pretty conservative, and I want to make responsible decisions, especially being a single mom, who it's just me and my son. I don't have that co-parent that helps out at all. And so for me to make this decision was so out of character. And, I'd go in and look for approval from my mom and my dad. And, although the words they were trying, you could just see it on their face. Like, you're crazy. What are you doing? And so I struggled with that. And it took about 6 or 7 months, and it was getting, in my opinion, more and more intense at the office, to where I could not go in anymore. And in the meantime, I had a friend in the industry who was wanting to grow her business, and she was kind of courting me. And quite honestly, had she not courted me, I probably would have stayed until the end of that company, if you will. So I left. I left. I went to this organization.
So you got a new job, though.
It was a new job. I was a consultant, but it was
interesting. Okay.
It was a job. So they hired me as a consultant, but it was a job. And the deal was help the company grow. And it was a family-run business, so I was very comfortable in understanding that. And it didn't last for as long as I had hoped. So then I'm like, well, crap. Now what do I do? Like.
Yeah. See, so
I was miserable before, but I had a nice plump paycheck.
It's weird because I went through something like that too, because it's like now that I kind of like, you have to really adjust to, say, like doing your own thing, especially if you work at home. Because, you hear about like, you might go a little crazy when you're at home alone.
Yeah.
And then you try it and you do go a little crazy. It's a little like we just need people or animals or other beings around.
Yeah. And clearly I have the animals.
Yeah. You have the animals. Dogs are great, for like, giving you that feeling that you're not too far away from the rest of the herd.
Right.
It just drives you nuts. Your limbic system is not designed to hang out in a house all day and not interact with other beings, be they four-legged or two-legged.
Yeah, especially when you don't know what you're going to do. Now, remember, the last time I had, so this is funny. Okay. I think it's funny. I pulled out my resume. I dug out my resume. Okay, so I went from all of those jobs where people were pirating me from job to job to job, so I never needed a resume.
Right.
And And then my dad opened the company, so I didn't need a resume for that. And then when the company acquired, us, I didn't need a job. I didn't need a resume for that. I pulled out my resume. It was from the 80s, and it was on a dot matrix printer. It still had the perforated edges.
Wow, yeah.
And I don't know what the bigger wow is. The fact that I could find it and kept it, or that it was on the dot matrix printer. But
they're both equally wow that you found it. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sugar on, or the cherry on top is the perforated edge.
Yeah. So
great.
I dusted off my resume, and I attempted to put the last 20 years or 25 years of experience and do that. Okay, how do I take that and put it on one sheet? And how do I get the attention of people? And I'll tell you what, I said to my brother a couple months ago, I said, I think the biggest reason why I have my business the way I have, and I haven't gone to work for somebody, is it was easier to start my own business than go look and find a job. It is so hard to get your resume in front with where technology is, and how the search engines, and it was really challenging. And so I had spent some time
I can commiserate with that, because I'm doing it now, looking for work in Scottsdale, that's kind of neat, and Phoenix. And the thing is you just need to really, for me, I need to sort of limit how much time I spend doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
because it is a full-time job.
It is, but you can't do it full time because it sucks my soul out.
Yeah.
I just go through and I bust through it first thing. Yeah, it's so discouraging. That's what I mean. It just makes you feel like crap.
Yeah.
So I do it for a couple hours in the morning, and then move on to more fun things.
That's good. Yeah. I did it for, I don't know, a couple months, and got sick and tired of feeling like I did in college, this isn't for me, and I feel like crap, and something's got to break. I got to catch a break. And I'd always loved retail, and so I thought, well, let me go back and see, I'd always wanted a coffee shop or some kind of retail brick and mortar store.
Okay.
And so I started researching different ones, and, still looking for a job when I could, but really, looking at buying franchises and that sort of thing. And my dream company came up for sale. It was this quaint little coffee shop in northern Scottsdale, actually the heart of Cave Creek. Back in its heyday, it was pumping out, so many cups of coffee, and it was the place to go. People, it was like people would get on their Harleys. Yeah, people would, it was a destination. People, if they were in Prescott staff or wherever, they would get on their Harleys and go there. Well, they closed up shop. They filed Chapter 7 or 11, whichever one. And so I was going to go in and scoop up this coffee shop and continue, continue the legacy of it. And I jumped in, and I was, I'm like, well, I better figure out how to be a barista. So I went to coffee school, and it was fun. A week in in Portland was a blast. And so I did that, and I needed to get this business out of the banking system because they had defaulted on some loans. And it was mine. It was happening. I, spent months planning for it. And in that time, what would wake me up from a dead sleep is, how am I going to compete? How am I going to get people in my coffee shop? It had been closed for about 9 months. How am I going to do this? And so I started. How are you
going to put it back on the radar?
Yeah. And so I started doing a lot of research and jumping into a lot of marketing, following a lot of different marketing gurus, and I was asked to be on a couple marketing panels, which I thought was odd, because I'm like, I'm not a marketer, I'm an operations gal. I'll run your business for you, but I'm not a marketer type thing. And it turns out I am. I didn't realize it, but it turns out I am, based on the world I grew up in and around media, but I picked up a lot. But, as I started to educate myself on my own business, I realized I became a decent marketer fast, understanding the principles of what needs to happen and that sort of thing. So here comes another crash. I went to the auction to get this building, had money in hand, and it was going to be mine because I had an inside scoop and it was happening. And
Right. You're going to do this.
It didn't happen. Someone showed up last minute with deeper pockets than I had and outbid me like foolishly. You know, I'd bid 5,000 over and he'd come in at 50,000 over. And then I'd come in at 5,000 over and he'd come in at 20,000 over. And it was just like stupid money. So I'm like, all right, you win, you know, and
you can't compete with that kind of, yeah.
He didn't care how much he spent. He just wanted the land.
Wow.
And I was devastated, you know, because here I spent the last year trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And everything was pointing to this, you know, the way everything, you know, all of the little signs, you know, we're always looking for the sign.
Right. You're looking for the critical path.
Yeah. You know, and I'm a prayer. I'm praying, okay, God, you know, show me the sign. And he kept showing me the signs. And I'm like, all right, this is mine. It's going to happen. And it didn't. It was like, damn, you know, now what? Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was more depressed about that or my divorce, honestly. I mean, I was crushed. Like I was beyond
It is.
crushed.
That is just like devastating, right?
Yeah. So I pulled myself up by the bootstraps, still being a single mom, living the life, mind you. You know, I'm still living in the same house when I was making big bucks going down the highway, you know, at my corporate job.
Right.
And money is, you know, I'll tell you.
Getting tight now.
It takes you 16 years to save and it takes you a year to blow through it. Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah. So money was tight. Fortunately, I had some investments that I could tap into that would sustain me. And my consulting practice really just kind of evolved. You know, people started asking me questions and I could answer. And I started going to masterminds and different, events, the 2-3 day long events, and learning as much as I could from what I thought are the top people that complemented what I was trying to accomplish.
Okay.
And here I am 4 years later. I'm still in the same house, still with the same kid and the same dogs. And, like I said earlier, if I knew back in 2012 when I left my corporate job, what I was going to go through that first 18 to 24 months, I would have looked at my mom and dad and I would have said, you're absolutely right. I'm going to stay and I'm going to be miserable. Not that I'm going to be miserable, but I knew I would have been miserable in that job. And I'm just going to suck it up and I'm going to do the right thing. And
because it was so painful, right? And just scary.
Yeah.
And you had to go through all that.
It sucked. I'm not going to lie. It sucked.
It does suck. Yeah.
But what got me through it, and I'm a huge believer in this, is, people say, don't look at the past. But I think it's important sometimes to look in the rearview mirror to see how far you've come, to give you encouragement to keep going. So I like to use the analogy, if I'm leaving LA and I'm driving to New York and I'm looking at the road map, it's as important for me to keep looking at my destination going forward, but also to keep looking in the back and saying, okay, we just accomplished 400 miles. We have a flat tire, but we made it 400 miles. My transmission blew at 1,000 miles. Okay. So we're going to take a little detour and stay 3 extra days in Kansas or, whatever.
Right.
And I'll tell you, those 18 to 24 months, it was like I was getting transmission breakage and flat tires and, rolling my car.
You were veering all over the place.
I was veering all over the place. But you just have, my DNA, I'm just going to say my DNA is just that of, okay, you get up in the morning and you say, this is my plan. God, I'm not sure what you have planned for me, but this is what I think I have planned, and I'm just going to go with it, and not succumb to the lies that we can tell ourselves about the decisions that we make, or the people that, like family, that I think probably if you were to ask my dad, should Carrie have stayed at the company, as a dad, and he did say this to me, he's like, as a dad, you should have stayed, but as a businessman, or as a business person, I knew you had to go, and so, I just think it's important to stay in touch with that, as you're going through life's ups and downs, because here's the deal. Someone asked me a while ago on an interview, what my motto is. And I'm like, I don't know if I have a motto, but I can tell you this. Okay. When it was badder than bad in corporate America, when I thought I was like not going to make it another day, what came to me is this is just temporary. Everything is just temporary. And that's,
this too shall pass.
yeah, it's totally biblical. But what's important about that is it's temporary for the bad stuff, but it's temporary for the good stuff too. We can't maintain. Yeah. I'll never forget. My brother came over one day after I remodeled my house, and it went from 2,000, like doubled in size. And he's like, "Wow, Carrie, you've really made it," type thing. And I looked at him and I'm like, yeah, but now I got to maintain it. You don't think about that. Like, I didn't think about that.
Right. You don't think about it at the time.
Yeah.
Experience really helps you do that.
Yeah. And so my point behind that is, back then it was, I'm going to achieve these goals and I'm just going to keep building on them. I'm not going to step backwards, because whoever steps backwards? Well, life made me step backwards. You can say it was because of decisions, or you can say it was because of my higher power. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that the ups and downs come, and you just need to be able to go with it.
Yeah. I went through something similar when I did a career change, the end of 2010, beginning of 11. But mine was a lot different. So I had like similar situation, but there was like, I was going to these personal development workshops, similar to your events that you were going to. Right. And I was just telling them that I really need to quit my job because it sucked. So they were like, yeah, you should quit your job if it sucks, and, get another one or do something different. You should be happy. That's what life's about. And I was like, yeah, but it's really good money. And they'd be like, so, and then I'd come home to my wife and she'd be like, you're crazy.
You're not quitting your job.
You're not quitting your job. So that went on for probably 6 months or a year or something. And then finally, I don't know how this happened, but my wife and I are having this conversation while we're on a trip, right? And she just says, well, okay, if you really need to change jobs, I get it. You should change jobs. And I take that like I'm doing it right away. I'm in woohoo Homer Simpson mode, right? I really don't care what's coming next. I just got to get out of that job. And so I come home and quit my job. And she freaks out again. And she's like, I didn't mean no. And I'm like, okay, so I do it anyway, right?
Well, you told me could, right?
Right. So she had to be cool with it. She was a little mad with the timing is all. So my plan was that I was going to go to school and finish my college degree because I could do that. And because of weirdness in the military, they would pay me the 100% tuition and a little stipend.
Nice.
Right? Exactly. It was amazing. So for about 2.5 years, that's what I did. I went to college and got paid to do it.
Nice.
And she was cool with that until that ended. And then she's like, okay, get back to work.
I just have to interject real quick. When you said you got paid to go to college, for a moment, I'm like, if someone paid me to go to college, could I like college? And the answer is no. I don't like college.
I wasn't like you. I actually was kind of like one of these. I was like, it was easy for me to do like a B or a B plus. I could just kind of like skate along and, I don't know how. Usually my studying was sort of like listen to other people while they talked about studying. And then I would do okay on the test. Nice. That's how I learned. Yeah. So these people that did the work took notes and, had notes and then summarized everything. They would go over those notes next to me. And I'd go, you guys are awesome. Now I'm going to do really good on this quiz.
Good for you. That's a gift. That's a gift right there.
Right. Well, I got lucky, But here's the other thing that I was going to interject real quick. Because you made me think of this thing. So when I quit that job, right, of course, immediately after I'm not getting work after the fun time, the 2 years, I'm like, man, I should have never left, right? It turned out, though, that my buddy that was in the job with me, and we were kind of like tag teaming the effort, he only, that whole job situation sort of like was on a timer right after I left, and it only lasted like about a year and a half after, and then I would have been gone anyway. Now I probably could have if I was in place, I probably could have like maybe rolled into another one a little bit easier, because whenever you walk away, all smug like,
yeah.
and then you come back 2 years later, they don't want to talk to you. Yeah. That's what happened to me. But it was a blast. That's all I can say. This has been a blast. I love listening to your stories.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been great having a conversation with you. It's always fun
having a chat.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear other people's stories and how they make it through life, because I'll tell you, that's where I pull strength from, hearing other how other people get through things and
yeah, we're not all in it alone.
That's so true.
We're all in it together.
That's so true.
Yeah. And we all go through those ups and downs like you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, that's why we call it Vroom, Vroom, Veer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you think, when you're in Vroom mode, you think this is it. Everything, I've made it now.
There's nothing stopping me.
There's nothing stopping me.
And then all of a sudden,
then you learn that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden there's a stoplight on the freeway and you're going 100 miles an hour.
What?
Where'd that come from?
So everybody can find out more about Carrie and what she's got going on in her consulting business at smartmarketingcounseling.com and talk a little bit.
Consulting, smart marketing consulting. Just
what did I say
counseling.
Again? Did I say counseling?
Okay.
See, you're a counselor. smartmarketingconsulting.com. There we go. Wow. I usually don't screw up URLs, so sorry about that.
It's a mouthful.
Okay. It is. It's a long one. That's okay. So talk a little bit about how you help your clients out.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I work with business owners and entrepreneurs, and really it's every client is different, because what I like to hone in on is closing the gap from where they are to where they want to be. And it always comes back down to marketing, because that's what they care the most about as far as bringing revenue in.
And it's so different now.
It is so different.
With the internet and social media and Snapchat and Twitters and Facebooks.
Yeah.
What are these things? I don't even know.
And people get lost in that. And here's the hard part, I think, with where technology is and the fact there's so many different opportunities and so many different things for people to tap into, is they do a little bit of everything, because they hear from this person to do Snapchat, and they hear from that person to do Instagram, and they hear from that person say no blog. And what happens is that
be on podcasts,
right? What happens, and all of those are fabulous. But what I like to sit down and say is, okay, let's look at the quick wins, and let's stair step this and not try to go eat the whole elephant in one bite.
So true.
Yeah. And
That's a good answer.
And I always like to I always further that analogy by saying, I like to try to start with the foot or the trunk, not the back end. You don't want to eat the back end first. So let's eat it in small bites, and let's start at the right end first. And, we do that by looking at where they are, what they have going, and what their vision is long term. But I like to look short term and pay attention to short term, not more than, but as important as long term, because you got to get those short term things going to propel you into the long term things. So, I work with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs on building their brand. We do a lot of creating books, Amazon bestsellers, to help leverage them. We work with a lot of marketing type funnels that help people acquire new customers, activate the customers that they already have, and then, of course, monetize those customers further with coming up with different products or services that they can offer that same client base to keep that loyal, raving fan happy. If you're going to spend money to acquire a client, you might as well keep providing them services and have them keep paying you, as opposed to spending money to continually go out and acquire new customers.
Yeah. That's a good strategy.
I like it. I think it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't need to warm up to the people you've already sold to as much.
Yeah.
The pre-sales ladder is a little bit shorter.
And it's so true. And the reality is the time and the money that people spent. Look, I'm all for acquiring new customers, so I'm not against it. But
right. But it's a long lead.
Yeah, and the time and the money that you spend in doing so, if you can tweak some things within your process and have people. And I'm all about providing value. I'm not about charging people more money for a product or service to bring in more revenue. It's what more value can we provide to where they would want to pay for it. So then you're expanding your growth. It's not about the sale of, you can't compete on price. You can't keep lowering your price to bring people in and then jacking your prices up and expect them to stay.
Right.
So we look at it from a strategic standpoint of how we can help them grow.
I love it. So I'm going to say it one more time, see if I can get it right. smartmarketingconsulting.com, not counseling. Don't go there. I don't know what's there.
I'm going to Google it and see. I might go snatch that up and point to my URL.
There you go. Well, this has been great, Carrie. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.